Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Lucas and today we're going to be talking about Framer. We're going to be talking about great design built in Framer, and I specifically found this website called Strange Pixels, and I found this little section here where you hover over the different teammates and basically you can it basically reacts to your hover where you can read their name and their position, right? So I wanted to create this also in Framer and see how this works, right? I can see that this is a component, right, with different variants. And yeah, basically just gonna do this in Framer, show you guys how this is done. And if you want to see more of these websites that have, amazing design that are all built in Framer, you can go ahead to framer.com/gallery. And here we basically have a long list of different websites. They're also updated pretty regularly, so you can go ahead and basically every week or every 2 weeks look for new sites that are being uploaded here. So if you are interested in seeing how this is done, how we can build something like this, stick around and let's get started. Now, obviously the first thing that we want to do here is open a new Framer file. You can do that by clicking up here once you're in the Framer app, and you can go ahead and open these different viewports. I always like to get started with the different viewports from desktop to tablet to phone, because in Framer you can design responsively, which is amazing, right? And you can see all three viewports at the same time. Now, once we have that set up, we can go ahead and go back to Chrome. And what I want to do is I just want to hover over one of these. Let's hover over this one and take a screenshot. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a screenshot of this entire section, like so. And then go back to Framer and drag my screenshot inside of Framer like this. And basically put it kind of on the side. And this is what I love about Framer as well. So if you're coming from a design background, let's say something like Figma, right? You usually bring in some images or some screenshots, or you paste in several things, right, on the side of your canvas so that you can kind of orient yourself with the design. And Framer does this too, right? So you can basically import screenshots or images of, designs or sketches that you made and kind of have them on the side while you design. Now we can go back to Chrome and kind of see how this is being done, right? So my guess is that this is one section, right? One section or one component that's holding all of these, and each hover is a different variant. That might be one way to do it. If not, each one of these is a specific component with a different variant. I'm guessing that's the case. So this is a component, right? And this is variant 1 whenever I'm not hovered, and this is variant 2 when it is hovered. And we can also double check. We can go right click on inspect, and kind of we can click this tool, this tool over here, and hover over this section. So if I click on this section, I see, okay, there is, okay, transform perspective, crew, so this is not really giving me anything. And now I see these individual names. So I see Carlos, I see Analu, I see Jean, I see Alejandro. So if I go to Alejandro and I go again over here, I can see that this is a container, and then I see variant 1. That kind of points me to the fact that this is a component, right? So there's variant 1 for Alejandro, and each one has their own kind of component name, right? Because we have data framer name Alejandro Calderon, and this one is Diego Rodriguez, so they're each their own, right? With different types of designs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Framer, and I'm going to go to my Finder, and I have a bunch of different, I actually have like 4 faces that we can use. Maybe I'm going to find another one, but we have a couple different faces that we can use. So we have Bernie here. I'm going to make him smaller. We have Chris over here, also going to make him smaller. We have this dude, and we have Drake. And I'm probably going to find another one. All right, so I do have now a row of 6 different teammates, ranging from a politician to a music rap artist to a movie star and to random people. So that's great. We have these different examples, so we can go ahead and start to try to build this, right? All right, so the first thing that we want to do here is kind of create this final state, right? So we have this beginning state, but we're going to do that in the component, but we want to create this final state. And for these guys, they kind of made this really cool, slanted text type of style. We can do something similar. They also have this like nice little outline, so it's not completely solid. It's a little bit like rigid on the edges. In our case, we're just going to make it solid, right? So let's just go ahead and try to do that. So I'm going to go back into Framer and I'm going to go back here. And what we want to do is we want to create text, right? So I created a text here. I'm going to write this guy's name, which is Bernie Sanders. We're going to make it going to keep it black. Let's say we're going to make it here a bold font. And we are going to add a stack to this. And we're going to make the stack fit the content, obviously. And give it some padding, right? Start off with something like 20. And on the top, maybe something less, like 12 or 14. And the bottom the same, right? And what we're going to do here is we're going to give this a color. We're going to give it a fill. So now it's going to be white. We can start off with white. Eventually you can change it however you want. And then we're going to give it some nice border that's dark and that has a certain type of width, right? We can also create different types of styles. So we can create this dashed one or dotted, right? The dotted one might look good with a rounded radius, I would say. Nah, I'm not a big fan of it. There's also a double line one, right? Something like this. But in our case, let's just keep it as a solid and let's make it about 4 pixels of width, right? And then let's add a little bit of radius, maybe 4, I would say. And we're going to add a different stack here underneath, and we're going to call this Chief Executive Officer, right? So Bernie Sanders is the CEO of this company, and we might want to make this a bit larger. No, let's maybe adjust the padding everywhere, something like 12, and then on the right and left something less, maybe 16. And then we already have something here that we can start off with. What we can do is we can also set the rotation to be something like this, right? I'm going to actually now put these together into their own stack, I would say, and make these two absolute so that there's no gap between these, right? So we can make something like this and then keep this height at a fixed height. Something like this would work. And we would want an overflow. Right now it says hidden, that's why we can't really see this. So if we click on visible, you can see that bottom part, right? So that's looking great. Now what we can do is get this Bernie picture, get this stack, add stack, and now we have this stack with this character, right? Let me see if we could add some type of border. No, it wouldn't look good because it would border the basically the outline of this, and we want that to be fresh. So what we can do is that, when it's not hovered, it can be black and white, and when it's hovered, the color shows up. So we can do something like that, right? This would be the card. I'm just going to name this card. And we can create this as a component. We can call this Bernie for now, create. And we have variant 1, which is going to be, let's just call this neutral. And then we can create variant 2, which is on a hover. And we're going to call this hover, right? We just call it, yeah, let's just leave it like this, right? So we have neutral. Let's just call this primary, right? Primary nothing and primary hover. And then in the nothing version, we want this stack to be invisible. And then here we want this to be visible. Oops. So we go down here to visible, yes. And we want this guy to be saturated. So we styles, filters, saturation, saturate 0%. And here we do 100%. So right now we have this good thing here. So let's just reduce the gap here to 0. And now we have Bernie. So I'm going to actually put Bernie in here in a stack. And obviously right now the frames, the viewports are frames. We need to set them to a layout, to a stack. And right now we have this going good. So this is nice. Now what we want to do is we want to basically, let's give this a fixed height for now. Eventually we would want this to be some type of specific height. And let's make this desktop fit the height of the content. So now it's wrapping around this stack that I created. All right, so we have the stack, we have Bernie. And if I were to duplicate Bernie, you can see that they start aligning next to each other. And in the example, they're all spread out like that. So that means that we need to make him absolute, right? So now, as he's absolute, he can move around freely. And we can basically duplicate him, rotate him, right? Do whatever we want. And if I were to press play, you can start seeing that it's starting to work, right? It's looking really cool. But we don't want to show only Bernie Sanders, right? We have other team members like Chris, we have Drake, we have these two guys, and we have Will Smith. So we need to show their faces as well. So going back into the Bernie component, which we're going to rename right now, we're going to rename it to team member. Let's just put team. And now what we can do is we can create these fill variables to image, right? We're going to give it image, and we are going to create variables also to these different layers. So this would be content, create variable, plain text. This would be the name of the person. And as you can see, I'm in the layers in the first variable, or the first variant, sorry, right? First variant. Over here, creating the variable, and over here, creating the variable, plain text, position, enter, right? And now we have that. So now what we can do is the following. I have Bernie, and I can go here, and I can switch this, choose image, and pick Will Smith. Now with Will Smith, it's going to be here. But you can see that it's kind of cut off, right? It's not showing his entire face, which is not good. So if we go inside this component, we can go inside this one or this one, whatever we want. Click on this image, right? And over here, you're going to see the image style settings. Right now it's set to fill. We want it to be set to fit. So now the image is going to be fitting into this particular box. And go back and you can see that it is, now you can see Will Smith's entire head, right? So now what we have to do is just change this, right? So it's going to be Will Smith, and he is the chief marketing officer, right? So we got Will, and we got Bernie. So now I'm just going to spend the rest of my time here just replacing the images. So I'm going to choose the next one, which is this guy. I'm going to choose the next guy, which is this one. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and choose the next one. So this is pretty straightforward, right? Duplicate this one, choose the next one, and I believe he's the last one, right? And perfect. Now we have our little like team member area, right? They have a bunch more. They have like, I don't know, 10. We have only 6. We could eventually add more to make it look more like it, but now our, you know, it's starting to look more like the actual example. We can actually just align them into 2 different lines. Maybe we can put Drake over here. As you can see, Drake's face is a little bit smaller than the rest of them, and that's because the image was a little bit larger. So what we can do is we can crop that image. So right now you can see that we can crop it to the top of his head and go something like that. Press on crop, and it should be larger there, right? The same with this one, we can crop it a little bit. Well, he has a small head, I guess. So nothing we can do, but basically it's supposed to be like that, right? So we have these two lines over here. Now let's just bring these two guys up here. And this one, let's just make sure that it's cropped. It is, okay. And now let me just look for two other faces just to kind of finish this. And after finding a few faces online, what we can do is do something like this, so you can start seeing that, you know, everything is working out properly. You can even see that if I were to hover over this one, it kind of goes under the face of this other person, of Obama, and basically that looks pretty cool, right? So there is this kind of spatial system going on. Now, I do have a pretty big monitor, and if I were to like go like this, you can start seeing that they're kind of going onto the side. This one is actually just staying put, weirdly enough, but we have to kind of find a way to fix that, right? And a good way of finding out why some things stay center and why things go to the left is, I mean, first of all, checking out to see if this is center aligned here, if this is kind of everything centered. If it is, then let's go into these individual ones. You can see that Bernie Sanders has these two blue lines lit up, and this person has this in the center. What we want to do is we just want to make sure that everything is set to this so that it kind of stays put in the middle, and we can go ahead and start doing that. And then if I were to press play and adjust this, you can start seeing that it is kind of, this one is moving a little bit. We can go ahead and click this as well, and you can start seeing that it's all staying put right there, right? So that's looking great. Now looking at the responsiveness, I mean, the desktop is looking great. It's actually, you know, responding great. If I were to press play here and make this wide, it's all centered, it's all acting nice, right? Maybe some things it's not so smooth. We might have to adjust certain things. Like for example, Will Smith is a little bit tough to cover. And it's because of this, basically, that they're, you know, kind of small. What we can do is we can set this to fit. No, we can set this all to be a bit smaller. Let me just see how that looks like now. Well, yeah, what we can do is we can go here and make sure that this is set to visible. And if I were to make this smaller and go like this, okay, that works, right? And the space is pretty small, so we can go ahead and do that. Make sure that this is set to fixed width and it's fitting the head of the person. Fixed width, fixed height. Making this small, and basically doing this for each and every one of these characters, right? Now, as you can hover over these on the frame here, it's all kind of like fit to the head of the person, and the overflow is set to visible. That means that it's not going to be hidden inside of this. So if I press play, you can already start seeing how this works. There's no like weird hover glitch happening, right? You can see everything, it's looking great. And let's go back, and now even with the tablet and the mobile, you can start seeing everything, which is also great. So for the mobile, we do have a problem that it is, I can't see the other ones. And in the live website, you can kind of scroll, right? So if I go here to this live website, click on inspect, right click, and make this a iPhone 14 Pro, and I can just kind of drag this around until the very end, right? So I'm guessing this is some type of fixed width with a fixed width that you can scroll. That's basically draggable or scrollable, right? Now, we don't really want to make this stack a fixed width. I'm not a very big fan of fixed width overall, so we're gonna keep it at a fill, right? Because in the desktop it's working just perfectly, and I don't want to keep it fixed, right? So as we scroll down, we need to kind of keep this draggable, right? In the tablet, what we can do is we can move certain things. So we can keep this, and as you can see, this is a little bit strange in terms of the width here. So we can increase the width a little bit, at least in the, and we can move things around. So I don't know why this is going like this, but we can move these around in the tablet, put them like this. And again, in the tablet version, it's not really like, you can't really hover because you usually use your finger in the tablet version. But let's just make sure to keep everything, style it for the specific tablet version. So let's get this guy over here, and then let's get this last person that is somewhere over here. There we go. And we got him like that. So on the tablet, it's going to be a little bit more crammed up. But yeah, this is basically, I mean, in the tablet, you won't really hover over something because you're using your finger, right? In the phone, however, we have it still set to fill. But what we want to do is we want to have it like draggable, right? And in order to do that, we need to basically leave this at fill, but we need to first make this, or actually let's first add this drag effect. So there's a freeform drag, and we can choose to snap back, but let's not. And let's kind of see how that looks like, right? You can actually drag around like this, but it kind of cuts off, right? And that's where we need to add this overflow set to visible. And if I were to go like this, you can start seeing that we can basically drag around everywhere, right? So let's go back. Also, another thing I realized is that if I press play and I start dragging, eventually it's not going to allow me to drag anymore, right? As you can see here. And the reason being is that this width is set to fit or fill. It was set to fill. Now what we need to do is we actually need to make it set to fixed in or relative like 200 or something like that. But I'm going to set it to fixed, maybe 800. And as you can start seeing, there's more place to scroll. There's more of a playground to scroll. We can even increase it to like 1,000. And what we can do now is test this snapback feature. So if I were to go like this and scroll like that, it basically snaps back. But we don't really want that. We want it to, or we can leave it like that, however you want. But we can just do this like that, and then I can go like that, and then I can just scroll back to the middle, right? And then keep on scrolling down. So yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, basically at the end of the tutorial, we have something like this, where we have our different team members. You can kind of hover over them, read more about them, right? This is something, fun that we can build in Framer. And we have also the different sizes here. So for the tablet, also looking like this, right? And for the phone, we also have this, draggable feature, just like in our example that we saw, right? So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It was a lot of fun. Building in Framer is a lot of fun if you are coming from a, design background and you like to build, right? So if you want to use this specific file, please let me know. I'll have it down in the description below as a remix link. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.